Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I haven't posted videos on this channel in a couple of days. Every day that I woke up, it was my intention to post on this channel, and time just got away from me. And then it would be early evening, and me and Alex would just be sitting around watching TV, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't film a Peterisms video today. So I'm very, very happy to be back. I missed you guys. I did keep up with my meditations every day, my prayers, my gratitude. Did you? You better keep up with it, even if there's not a video over here. Today, I wanted to read a meditation from a different book, a book that I read sometimes that really helps me a lot. So I wanted to share that with you, but I also really like the message that is in there, because the message in this meditation that was actually from last night kind of feeds into this meditation that I read yesterday during the day from a different book. So it is from Nightlight by Amy Dean, a book of nighttime meditations. And the reason that I wanted to share this book with you, if it is not already in my Amazon store listed below, I will put it over there so you guys can go check it out. The reason I wanted to share this with you is my head spins a lot at night when I'm in bed. You know, I will get all my stuff done. I try to stay off my phone for, the last half an hour before I go to bed. But then I lay down in bed and I just think about this and I think about that and I think about this. And it's funny because Ellen DeGeneres years ago, in her, her stand-up comedy show, she used to do this little kind of thing where she would talk about that she was laying in bed and she thought to herself oh, I think there's money in my pocket. And then she would say to herself, money in my pocket, money in my pocket, money in my pocket. And then she goes through this whole thing of this scenario that would have happened if she goes up and she gets up and she goes and she looks in her pants and she looks in her pants and then this and this and this and this. And that is totally what happens to my mind before I go to bed. And then it takes me forever. My husband is somebody that he is out like that. He is on, Instagram, all the media, all the social media apps, right up to the time he is ready to go to bed. He plugs his phone in, turns it off, and then he's out like a light. That is not me. I lay there forever, and it's I'm taking notes in my head, and I'm thinking, and all this, I need to do this, and I want to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, it's really good for me sometimes to have a distraction from that, a positive distraction. So sometimes, right before I go to bed, I usually do all my prayers and my meditations right before I go to bed. And then I will sometimes read this book, because this book usually gives me something to kind of peacefully think about as I'm falling to sleep, and I like that. It distracts me from the day's worries. At that point where my head is on the pillow, I got to remember, hey, I made it through another day. Thank you for another day. And I like to look at the blessings in the day. When I did Rhonda Byrne's book, Magic, which I was going to do on this channel, and that never happened. Maybe I will do that at one point. But when I did that book several years ago, which is 30 Days of Gratitude, it's fantastic, you guys. There was one thing in there where you get a special object like a rock. I have a rock next to my bed. And every day you hold on to it, and then you think about the best thing that happened throughout that day. And one of the things that I love about that practice is it makes you look back on the day, not at all the negative that happened, but of all the positive that happened. Because of all of the great things that happen to you throughout the day, you have to pick the one thing. And what's so funny is I have some really cool stuff that happens. I've had a lot of cool things happen to me since I started YouTube. I get to meet a lot of exciting people. There's a lot of things that happen. But by and large, my best thing on a daily basis is me laying in bed talking to my husband at the end of the day, or me watching the dogs run around in the backyard. And so it also kind of focuses me back on what my priorities are and those things that are really, really important to me. But reading a meditation right before I go to bed is always very healthy for me. It really helps me, and it helps clear my mind. So I want to read this meditation to you from last night, and it also kind of feeds off this meditation that I read yesterday. I'm going to talk about that in a second. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after the winter. Rachel Carson. Sometimes it seems as though time speeds up during fun-filled hours and slows down during times of idleness, misery, or pain. But time proceeds at a steady, unchanging pace. Because of this, we are assured that with every minute there can be new hope. Bad times will end with the great healer, time. Time brings summer to a close as well as winter to an end. Time ages the brilliant petals of flowers as well as prepares the new buds. Time brings the end to a life as well as the beginning to another. Because of this continuum, we can trust that time will bring the good to us as well as take away the bad. Today may have been a trying time, but tomorrow will dawn, and along with that dawn comes renewed hope. We can trust in the constancy of one thing. Time will always move forward. taking us away from the old and gently guiding us to the new. Time is always on my side, taking me ever closer to new moments that are fresh and untouched. Tomorrow will give me many such moments. Of this, I can be assured. One of the things I always say to myself every night before I go to bed is that tomorrow is going to be a really great day. And of course, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, tomorrow could be the most horrible day in the entire world. Or it could be the greatest day in the entire world. And I do believe that a lot of that is perspective. Even when a lot of tragedy comes our way, even when a lot of horrible things come our way, you know, that we can be strong, we can handle that. And I look back on some of the moments in my life that have been really, really difficult, you know, the moment that, you know, I talk enough about my mom, so I'll talk about some other moments. But, you know, when my cousin called me, and it was the day that we were that she was moving my aunt into hospice at home, and my aunt got home, got into her bed, and my cousin went out of the other room to sign the paperwork, and she came back in and my aunt was gone, you know? And she called me and she said, I need you here right now. It was a tough day. It was a really, really tough day. And, but I didn't sit there and, you know, just hang out in the misery. I didn't. You know, I can remember when I walked in and my aunt was still in the bed and she looked so peaceful. And my cousin, she had these huge bay windows that looked over this lake. And my cousin was standing in the window standing by the window when I walked in. She was just looking out. And, you know, we got to kind of just have this moment where we talked about my aunt. And, you know, she talked about how she wasn't afraid at the end. And that she was, you know, that my cousin had said to her, you know, like, aren't you afraid? And my aunt said, no, like, you know, I'm going to be with, you know, Peter's mom and my mother and Jesus, you know, and she wasn't afraid at that moment, and whatever your beliefs are, but that was hers. And I think, you know, we choose how we look at things. And today I choose to be, hopefully, a help to other people in those moments. That wasn't my moment. That was my cousin's moment. And it was my moment to be there for her. You know, even though I was grieving as well. Whatever she needed, I was there for. And she was there for me when my mom passed away, whatever I needed, you know? And we can be helpful to other people. We can look at the world in ways that, yes, you know, my aunt maybe went way too soon, but she was suffering and I didn't want her to suffer anymore. She had been suffering for quite some time. We can look at things with honest eyes and not be selfish. You know, we can look at things and try to look at tragedy and say, but are there positives to gain in this? And that's how I like to look at things today. I know in early moments of tragedy, that's not what people want to hear. And I don't think that that's the time to ask that question. I think days, weeks down the road. But, you know, going into situations today, I try to ask myself, how can I be of service in this situation? And I also ask myself, how can I go into this with being not, and I think positive sometimes is misrepresented as happy and excited. I'm not talking about that. That's not appropriate. In no way whatsoever should we go into a situation like that being happy. But we can go into that situation and be positive and say, I love you very much. What do you need from me? What can I do? How can I be of service to you? You know? And sometimes, and I've said this before on here too, this was a lesson I learned, not asking people what they need, but just doing those things for them. I think that's a really powerful lesson I've learned, you know, that I think often in life we ask people what they need instead of, this meditation has gone all over the place, but I think in those times of people's needs, we ask them what they need instead of just doing them for that. You know, I have a lot of friends, my best friend has taught me this, that she just goes and does it. You know, if a dinner needs to be made, if mail needs to be collected, whatever needs to be done, she just does it. She doesn't ask. She just does it for them, you know? And I think that has been a great lesson to me, and my mother and my aunt were the same way. That's who I like to be today. I like to go into situations and say, I can be a positive person, I can be strong in the situation, and I can be a person of service. I can help, you know? I think every day that we wake up, we have the choice whether or not we're going to look at the things that come towards us today with a healthy, strong heart, or are we going to look at the negative and the misery and all of it? Because it is really a choice. I'm not, you know, all of us have tragedy, and I think this is the thing that's often misunderstood when I talk about this, is that, like, if we have something horrible that happens in our life, it's like, well, I don't really have a choice in that. No, you don't have a choice in that. That is something horrible that happens to you, right? But by freaking out and bringing chaos and toxicity to that situation, we're not making it any better. And for many of us that are addicts and alcoholics out there, or that are spun in chaos, many of us thrive all of that, right? Let me tell you how you can figure this out. When you go to a funeral, the person that is making it completely about them, that's the person that is focused on chaos and toxicity in their life. And I've been that person before. I have been that person before. I don't want to be that person anymore today. I just don't, you know, and there are moments where I am allowed to grieve silently. My mother, that was my moment, you know, but other times, sometimes I have to make it not about me and I have to step aside, and I choose, you know, to be that person today and try to be that. This idea of choosing happiness is interesting to me. You know, this idea that time will bring happiness to us. I think that is one of the things I have to remember is, you know, that I got teary-eyed talking about my aunt and missing her, and then my uncle and my mom, and, you know, all the people that have passed by and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's very, very sad. But one thing that I've learned is that over time, things do get better, you know, like this too shall pass. And I have to remember that how I feel today about something is not necessarily how I will feel about it, you know, 2 years down the road. Feelings are not facts. They just aren't. And my feelings are allowed to change. Your feelings are allowed to change. You're allowed to continue to feel the way that you want to feel for as long as it's benefiting you. But if you don't want to feel that way anymore, you can change it. And feelings change, you know? And sometimes, like, I've looked at situations that have happened, and 3 years down the road, I don't feel the same way anymore. I have a lot of peace and forgiveness in my heart. You know, I have a lot of, like, let's just say if it's a situation where I've lost a family member, you know, like, that has passed away, I look back and I think, well, they had a really great life, and I didn't want them to suffer anymore. In the moment, maybe I wasn't able to see that, you know? I think often, you know, we have to remember that how we feel in this certain moment, even 24 hours later, 3 days later, a week later, time is going to heal some of that for us, you know? And I think that's in breaking up from a relationship and, you know, leaving a career, you know, whatever we're doing, time is going to change things. It is interesting that when we're having so much fun on those days that we're going to picnics or going to see movies or hanging out with our friends, that time just seems to go like that. We're like, where did the time go, right? But in those days that we're completely miserable, I think it's because we're so in our head and we cannot get out of our head that maybe those are the moments where we have to distract ourselves. I read this meditation yesterday, and it said in there, it was talking about, it was a Joyce Meyer's meditation, and I know some people don't love her, but I kind of read between the lines because I think that there's a lot of great messages in there. And yes, I know about Joyce Meyer's, and a lot of people are like, you do realize, and I'm like, yes, I do. But I think I try to read between the messages with her, or read between the lines for the message, because sometimes the message is quite beautiful. And she did this message or meditation yesterday that I really related to. And it was saying in there that, you know, that we need to, at times that we're down, like pray for happiness, as well as remembering those times that we were happy. So for example, if we're going through something and we just feel like we cannot get away from the misery, to remember like, well, like, you know, a year ago I was here, or last month I was in Mexico with my husband, or whatever. And yes, I'm very grateful for that, and I have great times. Or this weekend, I just was so peaceful and serene. And this day's tough, but it's going to go by, because I had bad times before then, and then I had good times, and I have bad times now, and good times are going to come. And it's about praying and focusing on better times to come and happiness, instead of just choosing to stay stuck. There have been many times in my life that I have chosen to stay stuck in anger, resentment, bitterness, and misery, sadness. I'm just not willing to do that today. I think it's important for me to recognize and feel those feelings. I think it's important for me to journal about it, to pray on it, whatever you guys do, to meditate on those things, to talk to my sponsor, to talk to my counselor, to talk to my friends, to talk to my husband, to process those feelings. It's important, but I don't want to stay stuck there forever. You know, I tweeted out today something to the effect of like, it's a great day to be alive, and then I put, every day is a great day to be alive. Some days it doesn't feel like that. Some days it doesn't feel so great to be alive. But today, for me, it does. And I try to stay stuck in that, you know. And I need to stay focused on the good times to come if I'm going through misery today. If you're going through something right now, whatever you're going through, remember the last bad time that you went through, and then remember the next good time you had. I promise you, something good is on the way. I love you guys, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.